Hi students. We're going to complete the series of changes that we have discussed. Yesterday we had a very interesting conversation between Edward and his grandma. They were trying, or he was trying to convince her, and there is another word that I said, or it was mentioned actually in your book. He was trying to convince her to use something else, just to make you revise a little bit about it. So starting from the beginning of the unit, which is what will they think of next, we mentioned a lot of changes that can happen from one time to another. And as before they imagined how we are living now, we are also imagining what is going to happen in the future. Now, from the changes that we had, we talked about changes in people, language, media, transportation, traffic. And then yesterday, we had the conversation that I told you between Edward and Grandma here. And there was the main topic between them, which is books in general. He wants her to try the e-book or the electronic book, and she wants to stick to the regular traditional book that she enjoys. So these are the phrases that I said that he used to persuade her. So he was trying to make her change her mind about what she thinks of these ebooks. And with the phrases that we have here, we also mentioned these real talk words or phrases. Now here, these are the same pictures that we used yesterday. But here, the pictures, I want you just to revise them before I give you the words, or we slide out the words here. So the first one here, do you remember when we said that anything new, you have to see it and then to approve or disapprove. The second, which is something that you will get rid of. Not, it doesn't have to be throwing, but you're going to get rid of it, or just destroy it, or just remove it. We have here also publicity. We said here this is associated with things that are publicly given more attention. Of course, this is just an opinion for some people. It doesn't have to be true. So the publicity that is given to these things, some people think that it is more over than what it really deserves. We have here also this girl, if you remember, we said that she was carrying some kind of heavy thing, the bag on her back, which there was a word that we used for it. And the last picture, we said that these are people that are going all in the same way, which is just like a figure of speech, meaning that everyone is just following other people because they are going this way without even thinking about what they really want or what they really believe. So here, we're going to start with the words that we had. We have here, the first one was check out that we took in the real talk part. Ditch, hoopla, legging, go with the flow. So some are phrases, some are words, but they are all used as real talk, which is used informally between people in their conversations. Okay, now I also gave you this part, and this is what we said that I might be able to make you change your mind, or I'm going to persuade you actually to give you some thoughts about something. Now, to be honest here, I did the same thing for both kinds. So I gave attention, and I'm going to try to persuade you with something, and the other one is the right thing, okay? So it really depends on your opinion or point of view. Here, of course, I'm just applying our phrases that we had, but you may be able to get convinced more, or you can be attracted to one because you really believe in this side. So the first thing, we have here the electronic letter. Now here, you can see that I used the phrases And also there is the real talk part, which is in the red color. So I used all the phrases that you have in the book in the lesson, and also all of the real talk words. One reason you should consider electronic messaging is that you can send and receive at any time. Check out the many ways you can e-message. Trust me on this. Getting an electronic message is better because messages are carried around all the time in their devices. Unlike lugging a piece of paper that may be lost, also one of the advantages is the ability to copy and save the message anywhere else. So ditch the paper and start e-messaging. So if you are the kind that likes e-messaging and is convinced that they are really better, you may agree with my point of view here. The second one, which is the written type. Now here we have the rest of the phrases and the rest of the real talk. Going with the flow isn't necessary. What is great about handwritten messages is the personal touch that can't be felt electronically. Look at it this way. There is a human effect, and it is closer to the heart than electronic words. I'm sure if you just give it a try, you'll find that the old traditional handwritten style still wins the heart. E-messages are just hoopla. So we had all the words here, and here also I can say and repeat that it depends on what you believe in. What do you personally like? Just to note something else here. Now the phrases that we have here as persuading here, or it may be like what we took before, negotiation, it really has more effect if you stress in your words or stress in the way that you speak. So if I want to convince someone, I can say, trust me on this. This is better. There are a lot of advantages. One of the advantages, so the excitement, the tone of the voice, the way that you speak has a very big effect with the phrases that you have to persuade the person that you are talking to. So this is something that you can put in mind, because you have this as an exercise to choose something and try to persuade someone else that you have a point of view. So this is what we took in general. Now, as I said, we discussed a lot of changes that happened. The latest was yesterday when we talked about the difference between electronic books and the regular traditional book. Now, another thing that we have here, which is our lesson today, we have another thing which has changed is, yes, we have here the newspaper. So the newspaper has changed. Some people, they still like the traditional paper that we used to read. And other people, they wonder, are they still being printed or not? So here it depends on what do you follow up? What do you have as an opinion? Our question, how did the newspaper change? Because really it did change from one form to another. Actually, we have here, there are more than one form. So the kinds of newspapers that we have here are 3. Basically, the first one, it started as a printed newspaper. And then it turned into an online newspaper. And after that, we have here the electronic newspaper. So the print newspaper is clear. There is a kind of mix-up between the online and the electronic because they are similar. Both of them are, of course, electronic, and both are online. But one is called this, and the other is called the other. So we are going to see what are the differences between the 3 kinds here. And some of you may be following up and they understand all the difference between them, but just to revise them. And there is something else which is important. That is the main thing that we will be doing in the listening task. So moving on. The question is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each type? This here is what you have as an exercise in your book, the listening task. You can open your books on page number 39. Now, in the listening task, the main thing is to just differentiate between the advantages and disadvantages of the three types. Because in the listening script, they do mention the three kinds that I just told you about. And you can see that you have the table which shows all the three kinds together. So before we start our listening task, we have here our objectives: to give the meanings of words based on the text, to list the differences between the types of newspapers, to enumerate the advantages and disadvantages of each type. So these are the things that we are applying within our lesson. You have here, as I said, page number 39. We have here the table, and the basic instruction or the question here is to listen to the information about the future of newspapers, then complete the chart with the advantages and disadvantages of each format. So they are notes. I advise you to bring an extra paper and try to write down as many words that you have heard as possible. Because when you write the words down, you will be able to see the division between each type, and then you can apply your table in the book. And actually, it's not that much. You have maybe from 3 to 4 to 5 ideas in each part, except one, there is nothing in it, and you will discover. So we are moving to our table here. Just try to focus. We have here the listening text is also a kind of electronic texting or listening speech here, so you can focus more and listen to it more. Okay, so let's start.
Newspapers have had the same general format. The news has been printed in ink on paper. Then the newspapers have been circulated to a particular area. However, the internet brought great change to the newspaper industry. To stay competitive, it became important to have an online presence. Today, most major newspapers around the world have an online version of their print paper. Online newspapers present some important advantages. For example, they can present news up to the minute, instead of having to wait to print the next edition of the paper. An advantage to the reader is that most online news sources are free. However, it seems almost certain that there are further changes ahead for the way newspapers are presented and sold. Most people in the newspaper industry feel that the next step will be electronic newspapers. Electronic newspapers would use technology related to today's electronic book readers. Like these readers, e-newspapers would use e-ink. Like a computer screen, e-ink has the ability to instantly refresh and change images. However, e-ink uses paper instead of a computer screen, so e-ink images look more like the images in actual books and newspapers. The electronic newspaper will have the look and feel of a print newspaper in other ways as well. It will be as large as the typical print newspaper, with a lightweight, portable screen that is flexible enough to be rolled or folded like a newspaper. The e-newspaper will combine these advantages of print newspapers with the advantages of online media, such as constant and instant updates, interactivity, and video capability. Replacing print newspapers with e-newspapers will mean that newspaper companies would no longer have the enormous costs of printing, manufacturing, and delivering newspapers. This will mean tremendous savings. One newspaper publisher predicts By 2030 we will have shifted to an electronic format, and we will have stopped printing paper newspapers completely. When that day comes, newspapers are going to go back to being the most important source of news for the public.
Okay, so here this is the total or the whole script for the three kinds. The best part about the script that it is something that we are already familiar with, and some people, they do have different points of view about newspapers now, so it is not a very far topic from what we are discussing if the topic is mentioned. So as I told you before, we have here the three types. We want to see each one is the advantage and disadvantage. If you just wrote down one or two from all the choices that you have, it's okay. So just check your answers, please, with me. We have here the first kind, which is the print, the first one. There is the advantages. So there has to be a kind of advantage, even if it is old. We can say they are large. They are portable. So some words here, it's a chance to revise them, if not learn them, if they are new to you. So portable means that we can just take it with us from one place to another, like our phones, they are portable. We have here also, they are lightweight. So we have here the two words, they are compounded, or they are together joined to give another meaning. We have here lightweight. These three are the the advantages, I'm sorry. We have here, these are the advantages, and then we have the disadvantages. The disadvantages are actually two. One of them is not up to the minute news, so which means that they are not up to date all the time, which means that our printed newspaper, you have to wait until the other day it comes to learn about new news. They are not, the parts that we have here in the articles, they are not like the electronic ones that can be changed all the time. We will get to that, but here mainly we say that they are not up to the minute news, which means that they are not updated quickly, and at the same time they are not free. So even if they are cheap, still they have their cost and you have to pay for them. So we have the advantages and disadvantages of the first kind, which is the printed. Moving on to the online and the electronic. So you may have understood what is the difference between them, and I'll get to that at the last point after that. But now let's see the advantages of the online. We can say that, yes, we have, first of all, free. So the last point of the print is actually the first point, and it was a disadvantage. It became now an advantage. We have here the newspapers or the online is free. The second thing also is the opposite, up to the minute news. It is quickly and up to date, updated also all the time. Moreover, we have here the interactivity. So it is always, the news is changing all the time, and also there is a kind of reaction or replies that can be given here. It's not like the silent type of newspaper that we have here in the printed. We have also the video capability, the word capability, that you are capable or you can see videos here, which of course is not something that you can do with the printed kind. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4 advantages. Coming to the disadvantages that we have here the computer screen graphics, which is not a very big deal here, but it may be some kind of concern for some people. Now this is the online. The last part here is the electronic newspaper. The electronic newspaper has a lot of advantages, and actually there are no disadvantages mentioned here in the listening script. So the advantages are: look more like paper than a computer screen. So like the books that we sometimes enjoy, when you are reading an e-book, you can see that you can turn the pages as if it was a real book. The same thing can be applied on electronic newspapers. You can fold them, you can turn them as if you are just holding a real printed newspaper. Of course, here we have, they are, yes, large, the same thing. And we have here also, we can say that they are lightweight. So which means that we have here something in common between the print and the electronic. It is portable, yes, it's the same thing here. And the last thing, savings for newspapers. So maybe the only part which is different here, that the first one is not free, and here there are a lot of savings. So companies, the printing, the time and effort that is given for printed newspapers is of course not mentioned here in this part. Now coming to the last thing here is the difference between, we have the online and electronic. So you can understand that the electronic is very close to the real printed newspaper, even in design, even in the way that it is displayed. It is very close to the real kind of newspaper. But the online news here, it is mainly referred to the news that we can read on any platform, the sites, the social media that we use. Sometimes it doesn't have to be referred to a newspaper. It is the news that is, of course, applied, but you can find it in any platform or social media app that you usually go to or you go back to for news. So this is the difference between online and we have here the electronic. Now you can think also about other things. So just follow up here and see the things that we discussed. Until now, we took 4 lessons. 3 of them were applied for the changes that we have and the things that we have noticed changing from one time to another. Keep in mind these things and focus more, because as usual, at the end of our unit, you do have your project, and of course it will be associated with all the things that we discussed. So just go back and try to think about other options that may not be mentioned before. So the last thing that we have here is our outline of the day. We had our lesson about listening. We have your newspaper types, and here the newspaper types that we had, there were advantages and also there were disadvantages. So we discussed them generally and mainly in all the types that we had here. The lesson is very light. It is something that you are familiar with. We have tomorrow also, it's going to be a pronunciation lesson, which is also something that you will, inshallah, enjoy. So until we get to there, just focus on your thoughts and see you soon.